Today on Rappler, President Aquino says bombings in Mindanao are meant to derail the peace process. The Philippines apologizes for the death of a Taiwanese fisherman.
Yun na nga, para mas naiintindihan nila ang sitwasyon ng kababaihan, lalo na yung mga distress worker na hindi naman kaagad sila mag-open up.
And the Labor Department appoints women to oversee shelters to prevent the sex for flight scams. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. President Benigno Aquino says they've narrowed the suspects to bombing attacks in Mindanao to 3 groups. On the sidelines of a business summit in Davao City, Aquino says the 3 groups seem to have joined forces to stop the peace process in Mindanao. In July, the government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, signed a crucial annex on wealth sharing. Both sides expect to hammer out a final agreement before the end of the year. Aquino does not elaborate, although there are 3 groups in Mindanao that oppose the peace process. The Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, or BIFF, a breakaway group of the MILF, the Abu Sayyaf, and remnants of the group once known as Jama Islamiyah. In a speech, Aquino vows to fight back.
But to those who want to challenge the authority of the state, you will feel the full brunt, depth, and might of the state's response. You will not get in the way of the peace and the stability that will help fulfill the potential of Mindanao.
On Thursday, a soldier was killed and 4 others wounded in a dawn encounter in Albarca, Basilan. On Wednesday, 3 bombs explode in different areas in Maguindanao and North Cotabato. In a radio interview, Defense Secretary Voltaire Gazmin says the military does not see a connection between these attacks and the global Al-Qaeda threats raised by Western governments this week. Military intelligence says the Abu Sayyaf and some MILF units joined forces in Albarca, Basilan. Philippine officials arrive in Taiwan to make an official apology to the family of the slain Taiwanese fisherman and to ask the Taiwanese government to lift sanctions against the Philippines. Philippine Coast Guard members shot dead 65-year-old fisherman Hong Shi-cheng last May 9th after his vessel sailed into Philippine waters. Manila Economic and Cultural Office Chair Amadeo Perez says he wants to convey, quote, the Philippine people's deep regret and apology to the family of Mr. Hong Shi-cheng over this unfortunate loss of life of their beloved one. Perez and other MECO officers will meet with Taiwanese Foreign Minister David Lim to talk about lifting the sanctions imposed on the Philippines, particularly the freeze on the hiring of Filipino workers. On Wednesday, Taiwan recommends lifting the sanctions after Philippine investigators recommend filing homicide charges against 8 Coast Guard personnel involved in the incident. Focus Taiwan News Channel earlier reported the family of the slain fisherman was willing to accept the Philippines' apology. Are all oversight committees created equal? Senate Minority Leader Juan Ponce Enrile criticizes the Senate leadership's reforms on oversight committees during a caucus Monday. Senate President Franklin Drilon and Senate President Pro Tempore Ralph Recto say the Senate decided to reduce the number of oversight committees from 35 to 20 with a budget of 20 million pesos for all panels. They say the move aims to save 50 million pesos to 140 million pesos in 2013. But on Wednesday, Enrile says he prefers to abolish all oversight committees. He says the function of the oversight committees can be performed by the regular committees. So I suggested we should call a spade and instead we should review the need for these committees. Enrile says the 6-member minority bloc opposed the decision of the majority to give each oversight committee an equal budget. He says, by doing a uniform amount, you're saying they have equal importance, that the responsibility and work of all oversight committees are the same. Oversight panels monitor the implementation of specific laws. Senators say many of them duplicate the work of the regular committees. Enrile also says the Senate cannot act on its own in changing oversight committees, clarifying they've, quote, counterparts in the House. But the majority says the changes will result in a lower Senate budget, following controversies like Enrile's distribution of maintenance and other operating expenses and the multi-million peso pork barrel scam. President Benigno Aquino accepts the resignation of Deputy Customs Commissioner for Intelligence Danilo Lim. On the sidelines of the business summit in Davao, Aquino says he spoke to Lim and agreed to move him to a new assignment outside the Customs Bureau. Lim resigned on July 22, hours after Aquino slammed the Bureau for incompetence in his State of the Nation address. The president did not accept his resignation then, along with Deputy Customs Commissioner Juan Lorenzo Tañada. Customs Chief Rufy Biazon also offered his resignation, but the president decided to give Biazon another chance. To prevent sex for flight scams, Labor Secretary Rosalindo Baldoz says the Philippines will appoint more females to staff shelters for distressed migrant workers. Baldoz says the Labor Department worked on the suggestions of Akbayan Representative Walden Bello, who blew the whistle on the sex for flight case. In an interview on Rappler's Talk Thursday, August 1, Bello recommended removing male labor attachés in shelters for distressed Filipino workers to prevent sexual abuses.
Yun na nga, para mas naiintindihan nila ang sitwasyon ng kababaihan, lalo na yung mga distress worker na hindi naman kaagad sila mag-open up.
During the Senate hearing, Baldoz says she deployed 13 female and 1 male personnel to the Philippine Overseas Labor Offices. She says 9 will be assigned to Saudi Arabia, 3 to Jordan, and 2 to Kuwait. Baldoz says, quote, "These personnel will be deployed as soon as they're accredited by the Department of Foreign Affairs." Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada and Vice Mayor Isko Moreno blocked buses from entering the capital following a policy banning buses without terminals in the city. Dressed in fatigues, Estrada makes the morning rounds at the Manila border along Welcome Rotonda, Quezon City, as 4 buses attempt to enter Manila. Explaining his outfit, Estrada says in jest, "I heard about your plans to attack us," referring to reports 700 buses threatened to enter Manila with or without the city's permission. Bus operators say if Manila insists on its hardline position, they might close shop in 3 months. Bus operator Roberto Torres says their operators group was not consulted before the ban was implemented, disputing Moreno's statement that public hearings were held for all sides. The bus operators plying east of Manila will submit a counter-proposal and position paper on the ban. Climate Change Commission Secretary Lucille Sering talks about disaster management efforts in the face of climate change. Sering says global warming will affect the Philippines in 3 ways: sea level rise, more rain, and temperature increase. She says the impact of climate change will lead to more awareness among citizens.
This is where the change is actually most felt, and the impact is so huge that it created more awareness, and people are now trying to look for answers on why this is happening. And this is where the responsibility of the government should be heightened, because if people are now starting to ask questions, then government should start also to give them these answers, and you should be ready with these answers.
And Sering adds the impact of disasters will be felt most at the local level.
Actually most felt on the local economy, not much on the national level. But if you're talking about like what happened in Compostela, it's one of the top 10 poorest provinces, and now you get hit by this. I don't think they'll ever recover from being out of that list. So this is where we are right now.
Yes.
And we are now pushed to do something, because it doesn't just mean losing lives, but also losing livelihood. And
A suicide attack kills 38 people and injures 50 others at the funeral of a Pakistani police officer Thursday. An official tells AFP most of the dead and injured are policemen. The attack at police headquarters in the southwestern city of Quetta is the latest in a series of attacks in the country. Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 5, Argentine authorities combed through the charred ruins of an apartment building destroyed by an explosion and fire that left at least 10 people dead. Santa Fe Province's health minister says another 62 people were injured and 13 are missing after Tuesday's thunderous blast caused by a gas leak in the building in Rosario, the country's 3rd largest city. Rescue efforts went on through the night and continued Wednesday. At number 6, the family of a tobacco farmer whose cancer cells were harvested without her consent agrees to support scientific research. More than 62 years ago, scientists harvest cancer cells from Henrietta Lacks before she died. The cells are called HeLa after the first letters of her first and last names. The cells were used and led to medical breakthroughs like the polio vaccine, cloning, and in vitro fertilization, among others. A member of the Lax family says they're proud of what HeLa cells have done for science. And at number 9, scientists say dolphins are the least forgetful animals. Dolphins have a level of cognitive sophistication comparable to humans, chimpanzees, and elephants. While elephants are known to have memories that stretch up to 20 years, this appears to be limited to those within the family. Scientists say dolphins can remember strangers. When researchers played recordings of dolphins' signature whistles underwater, the animals are able to recognize the calls of former companions. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. The lawyers of alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Lim Napoles threatened to file criminal and civil actions against Rappler for our series of stories on their lavish lifestyle. Rappler and the Philippine Daily Inquirer will be charged with libel, according to Napoles' lawyer, supposedly for our disregard for the truth. In a demand letter dated August 1, the lawyers say Rappler reporter Natasha Gutierrez disregarded the Napoles' right to privacy. We take exception to the accusation because while privacy is an inviolate right, it ends where public interest begins. In their letter, the lawyers say Napoles and her family are not public figures subject to scrutiny, but documents show Napoles' business involved dealing with public officials and their pork barrel. The core issue here is how billions of pesos in public funds are being spent. Private persons whose lives intersect with issues of public interest are not exempt from media scrutiny. Natasha Gutierrez's stories are based on public documents from assessors. All of these documents are available online. The reports were neither pulled from thin air nor fabricated. A libel case is one of the most common forms of intimidation against journalists. In pursuing this story about public officials who try to escape accountability, journalists cannot and should not be intimidated. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter, which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. You click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories with the most number of votes on their meters. These are the stories that have affected our readers the most, and it is a very red day today. The stories that have dominated, let's look at 4 stories. This is on Napoles. The story I just told you about now. Napoles lawyer threatens, Rappler replies. You have, interestingly, 6% amused, 87% angry. That story again comes up, 87% angry. The story that we published about 24 hours ago, Napoles, helmets, and the military. This is how she was part of the military scam and was acquitted, charged and acquitted. 94% angry. And you have that right here. Again, how Janet Lim Napoles got away. That's 92% angry. It is a very red day today. Most people are angry. Well, that is Rappler's Newscast for today, Thursday, August 8th, 2013. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I hope you're not angry. I am Maria Ressa, as we say at Rappler. Tomorrow begins today.